This is Elliott Serrano and Jose Melendez coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois. Thank you for joining us here yet again on the Comic Culture Warrior YouTube channel. A lot of reviews. We've talked about some DC stuff, some manga, Scott Pilgrim. I finally read Scott Pilgrim. And, of course, one of our favorite books, Buffy the Vampire Slayer from Dark Horse Books. One of Dark Horse's top-selling titles next to the Star Wars books. Buffy issue number...
It's a one-shot.
Oh, it's a one-shot. But it is still under the Season 8 banner.
Yes.
They're calling it Tales of the Vampires.
Which they did a miniseries a while ago.
In the
called
past.
Tales of the and an original graphic novel, I think, also.
Right. This issue by Becky Cloonan and Vasilis Lolos. A fill-in issue. Kind of a fill-in issue, but I've learned that even the quote-unquote fill-in issues explore some sort of aspect of the ongoing story happening in the Buffyverse. And this is kind of just a story of life from the vampires' point of view.
Tales of the Vampires.
Of course, Tales of the Vampires. And tells the story of this kid. I forget his name.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Jacob.
Who's living in one of those small towns, where it's, kind of like not a whole lot to do except go down to the local 7-Eleven or the video game place and hang out
I'm
in the
already
parking
telling you
lot.
right now that I completely am not buying this story because there are no more arcades left in this country. And this kid's hanging out at this awesome arcade, and I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry.
Wasn't an awesome arcade? I saw like 3 video games, and like he dropped
the
like
whole
12
thing's an
bucks in
arcade.
it. Yeah. In either
Look how
case,
huge that is.
this is that's true. It's a story of teenage angst in the middle of nowhere, and this kid kind of like just gets pulled into the glamorous life of vampires. And again, this story was not written for me because, like I told, this is a very well written story. It's a very well written book. But if to me, for all you kids out there, you teenagers who are like in your world of self-pity and moroseness, where you're in, oh God, life holds nothing for me. I want to be alive.
Are you making fun of them?
Yeah, I am making fun of them.
That's pretty awful.
Hey, guess what? Join the Peace Corps. Visit another country.
All right, you know what? We're not here to
do
hand down
something.
life lessons, man.
Yeah.
Why are you
Yeah,
handing
that's
down
true.
life lessons?
That's true. Because when a kid like this decides he wants to hang out with vampires, I'm like, whatever.
But they don't really. That was one of the parts I didn't understand. Is like he goes to hang out with the vampires, but they never really show him doing anything with the vampires. Like, why is he all weird about what he's doing with the vampires? They don't get into that.
Well, it's an analogy for, like, again, hanging out with the wrong crowd, of course. Remember, he hangs out with this dude, and he wants to feed all the time. My guess is he's one of those thrill seekers who...
See, but that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, oh, so this is one of those guys who lets vampires feed off him, too. But they don't really get into that at all. They don't say anything about that.
Because I don't think you really need to. I think that's kind of like in the Buffyverse is kind of accepted. And again, if you start hammering that point too much, it's like the old,
Well, I mean, they can do it as a throwaway line. But see, because, again, we know about the Buffyverse. We know that there are people like that.
That's true.
If people just started reading Buffy,
they might be
the
a little
comic,
confused.
they don't like, oh, what was so wrong about hanging out with vampires?
Right.
Because he's obviously hiding something from his mom, but he doesn't. He keeps it from the audience too. But whatever.
True. That's true. No, you do make a valid point there.
I know I do.
Because again, this is a book that's kind of more written for Buffy fans. If you haven't really been watching the TV show, you might not be aware that there are people in the Buffyverse that because the vampires don't necessarily kill you when they feed on you. They can, just suck a little blood from you and then leave you be, and then you keep going back because you kind of get addicted to that as well. Beyond that, I love seeing anything that Becky Cloonan does that can get her, some more attention and get her noticed. I think is great. She writes, of course, this is the angst of teens and early 20s. I'm not there anymore. And you know, a good book. Although, again, it's hard. I don't always sympathize for these kids because, well, also because personal issues. I work with kids like this all the time, and, you know, I try to get them out of their funks by telling them there's a big world out there outside of that arcade that you hang out in all the time. Beyond that, great book.
Okay.
Anything to add to that?
No.
No.
I mean, it's a one and done. I kind of like the story. I'm not putting anybody down whose life just happens to be in the middle of nowhere and doesn't really have anything to do and has no ambitions. Like Elliott seems to have problems with that, but I really don't.
I'm not saying that you should. There's nothing wrong with not having ambition, but it's the old, I want to feel alive. You know, there are lots of ways you can feel alive. There are a lot of ways you can feel alive. It's a big
and I
world
guess being
out there.
dead in the Buffy universe is what makes you feel alive.
But you know what? It's being an undead person. See, but that's the other thing too that I kind of always take issue to because when you become a vampire, you're not you anymore. Right. It's a demon that.
Right. That's why when he's like living in his mom's basement, I'm like that would never happen because he would kill her.
No, a vampire can still retain. They retain all the memories of the person that they're inhabiting.
I understand.
So he might still have that shred of.
Remember when Spike killed his mother, who he was in love with?
Yeah, but that was
it's a demon possessing you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
and then he talks about killing his mom.
That's true.
But then when he leaves, he's like, maybe I won't kill her.
Maybe I won't.
But I'm like, you probably would.
You probably would. That's true. So I myself am not a big vampire fan. So
But you
stake him to the heart, man. Stake him to the heart. That's what the Slayers do. Man. Slayers rock.
And there is a Slayer that shows up in a twist kind of way.
In a kind of a twist kind of way, which was really clever. Right. So I give Becky Cloonan props for that. And another thing too, really, some of the most, I don't want to say sparse dialogue, but minimalist dialogue. Mm-hmm. And you don't really need the characters to say a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, everything is there, and I really need to take a lesson from that. That she gets her character saying a whole lot with as few words and captions as possible. Mm-hmm. It's pretty impressive. All right, so get out of your basement, guys. It's a big world out there. I know you don't want to hear it. Your parents have been telling you that. We will come back with something else. Who knows? Maybe it'll be Last Rants. Maybe not. You'll have to. Probably. We'll see. See you then.